Welcome. This is Dr. John DeMartini. This is one of the most amazing and inspiring shows that you can listen into. If you want to be on the edge of your seats, if you want to open up your heart, if you want to expand your mind, and you want to meet incredible people, stay tuned because you're just about to experience a transformative radio show that will change your life. And you're listening to the Dr. Pat Show that's coming up right next.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me, busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail.
Hey, everybody, welcome. It's so great to have all of you tune us in and turn us on. I want to say a couple of things about the show that we're getting ready to do with my friend and colleague, Trish Laub. Look, we have done a series of shows over the years. Let me just say the years. And we've done so many shows that lead up to this show today. And, you know, if you think about who we are and you think about our 20-year career in the digital format, yes, believe it or not, that is absolutely, I came out of the gate, digital format, 2003. If you're somebody like me, along the way, you've discovered there are some people that have their hearts in the right place, and then there are some people that don't. And, you know, we've talked about this in various shows as tips for you all to really just be mindful about some things. And we've done shows about how to be mindful about your children and tough love. We've talked about the tough love thing. But this show today is about something so prevalent, so important, so undiagnosed, and so absolutely underestimated when romance becomes a scam. My special guest, Trish Laub, is all about that. But let's just talk about, let me just give you a little information about who she is. First of all, whether you know who she is and the service she has provided, she is also somebody that really understands what I said about the digital age, right? Developing computer systems. She understands what that's like. You know, she's been out in the world, nonprofit. She's done so many things. But when you have that experience, that systems and computer experience like she does, and I work, so some of that just rubs off on you, then there are some things you learn. But besides all that, the author of 5+ books, she's been a speaker, a consultant, all of that. And then you have to wonder, what happens when you too become part of a conversation that has to do with cyber crime scams? They are everywhere. Trish, it's great to have you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be back speaking with you.
You know what? I'm not kidding. Okay, so we did a show, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago about what it means to have tough love with your children. And it touched upon this, but it didn't go into the detail we're going to go in. So all those people that were listening to that show back then, they should listen to this one, because it's hard for parents and adults alike to understand the depth and the breadth of scams. And when it hits the heart, as in romance, what the heck do you make of that, Trish?
It's really interesting to me because I never thought I would find myself speaking on this topic, but for many of the reasons that you said. And I want to say up front, I was not scammed out of anything. There's a variety of reasons why, but I think that it's just interesting to me that we have found ourselves, well, let me back up. You know, we all probably remember the emails that we would get from supposedly some other country, you know, asking for money. And then there was the wave of scams kind of saying, oh, your niece is, you know, in London, and which is not where I live, and, you know, was robbed and she needs money and she needs it now. Yeah. This game has upped itself so many levels. And I think they've kind of hit a perfect sweet spot. And that is, especially post-COVID, the numbers of incidents of this since 2020 to 2021 went up 80%.
Yeah.
And I think it's because people are not only isolated, that's one thing, but they're lonely. And that makes them vulnerable. And it's largely, I mean, now with quote unquote dating apps or friendship apps or any kind of connection apps or website platforms, it's as young as, you know, everybody says, oh, it's the older demographic. No, it's not. It's down in the 20s. It's all the way from 20 to 100. And it's just mind-boggling and dangerous, and really not that many people are aware of it.
Yeah. I want to touch on something you just said, because, you know, you hear people talk about the fact that they have been alone, but yet they've had their kids, you know, their spouse, partner in the same house. That does not mean that you're not lonely. So I just want to start with that conversation.
Correct.
You know, that's a misunderstanding. Just because you got 15 people in your house, probably more lonely than if you were by yourself. But this idea of loneliness, it touched upon so many people in the past 3 years and continues. And why is that? Well, let's talk about some of the things that really feed what we're talking about when we talk about romance, scam, and catfishing. What are we looking at? We're looking at predators. Yes. Let me use that word.
Yes.
We're looking at predators that look at a range of people and say, I know you're not able to see your children right now. You're in lockdown. I mean, honestly, there is a absolutely fraudulent predatory algorithm that goes on in their psyche. What do you think of that? Is that too strong?
No, that's not strong enough. What I want people to really understand is people who have been scammed, sometimes there's an element of shame with it. And somebody asked me, am I ashamed that I spoke with scammers? No, actually, to be perfectly honest, I had a great time talking to them. It was fun. But I don't recommend that. It's not good for everybody. But oh, shoot. I dropped
Well,
that.
first of all, you have to be skilled. I want to just say something. I just read briefly about you, what your skill set is in your background.
Yeah.
So somebody like you can have an in-depth conversation and call it fun because you know exactly what you're getting into, right?
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you for clarifying that. But I want to say to people, these scammers prey on innocent people. The innocent people did nothing wrong, but have a conversation and communicate with somebody. Maybe they missed some red flags, but they did nothing wrong. There's nothing to be ashamed of. They are not victims. They were preyed upon. And I think that's really important to understand. These people are being taken advantage of. And it's.
And I mean, there are some things to look at. I want to just come out of the gate. The election is going to be over tomorrow, but I want to say something. Yes. If you get a text message from who you think is some political person, and you reply and they get it, that is not a political person, because all of the political text message parties, I don't care what party you're from, all of them have no reply. If you actually get a reply, delete that thing. I mean, isn't this one of the keys? It's kind of like I call it trick number one. And they come at you in all different ways. What did you see? How did they come at you? And let's talk about this thing that became popular on television, but it's not a good thing. Catfishing. I mean, they made a whole television show on that thing.
Yes. For people who don't know, catfishing is when somebody lures prey to them, as in fishing, into a relationship by means of a fictional online persona. A lot of times they find, somebody's pictures online. I mean, once something is posted online, it's public domain. People lift your pictures, they take your information. And the whole purpose of catfishing is to exploit people. And that exploitation takes, I've probably got a list of 8 or 9 different specific specific scams they go for, including getting money, stealing your identity, money laundering. Money laundering is relatively new, and it actually results in a crime to the prey, not to the scammer. So romance scammers are catfishers, fisher people that use the vulnerability of loneliness and romance to lure in their prey. And what I want to say is these people are both highly motivated and, for the most part, extremely skilled. If you looked at narcissistic behavior symptoms and how a person with narcissistic behavior plugs into someone else to get whatever their charge is, I'm not saying the scammers have that disorder. But these are the skills they have. They're manipulative, they're masterful. They are at minimum con artists and at maximum often criminals in other arenas.
Yeah, I want to give out some statistics because every time I do this, you and I, we do a lot of studies, right? We study different things, so we know about numbers. But I want to say this, I will tell you this, the numbers we're about to share with you about the number of complaints that were made in romance scams, because we're going to roll right over to that. Anything you hear us say, I want you to know it is severely understated.
Yes.
Why? People do not want to admit look, you'll admit you got scammed to buy something you didn't want, or to sell something you didn't want to sell. But I'm telling you, you are not going to step up and say, I had a romance scam, right? Because there's a psychological impact to that, right?
There's an emotional connection that they've made with you. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about it. How big is this? How big is romance?
In 2021, there were 25,000 reports, and you don't necessarily, I can get into this later, but you don't report to the FBI. Most of these are international situations. Yeah. They have a website, ic3.com. I'd have to look up com or gov. I've got it in a document you can download if you want later. But 25,000 reports. I would say at minimum, that's 50% understated because, first of all, probably half the women don't want to report it. And close to half of the scams are done to men. Men are much less likely to report it than women.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of the people that don't actually meet the requests of the scammers aren't going to report it. So I think it's grossly understated. And all of that said, in 2021 in the US alone, over $1 billion was exploited from people.
And I really think that there's a lot of areas where we compare men and women, and men come out like, well, doesn't happen to them, or but in this one area, this is a predator's paradise to find lonely men, right? Would you say?
Well, and don't quote me on this. At one time I had heard that widowed and divorced men, their average age of remarrying is something like 2 years. It's very short. I could be off on that, but it's very short. And women, not so much. They get into a certain age group and they're like, yeah, no, we're not doing that again.
Yeah.
And so
they're
men
like
don't
party
realize
time.
that their desire to be married again makes them very vulnerable.
Wow, we're going to take a short break because this is the tip of the iceberg. By the way, we're going to hear, what does this look like? What does it feel like? How do they approach you? Trish is going to share some real examples of what you can do to really be mindful of it and be careful of it. And both of us want to say to you, our choice for you is not to engage. Someone like Trish and I, we can engage because we know what we're engaging in. And even with those skills, I'm telling you, it can get real convincing. Let's take a short break, Benny. Jacob, we'll be right back with Trish Laub. Oh, did she write the book on that, Benny? Did Diana Ross and the Supremes, weren't they like the group that came out, and it didn't matter what it was going to be Love Hangover, I Hear a Symphony, Baby Baby. I mean, oh my gosh, when they came out with the whole Holland Dozier or Holland were the writers of those songs. Yeah, nobody can do it like nobody can do it. But today's show is about how you can do it, how you can be aware. Trish, before we go and we start to talk about really romance scams, which people are not talking about, how do they find out about you, and what all have you provided for people on your website?
Okay, they can go to my website, Trish, Trish, Laub, Laub as in boy.com. And in the very, very bottom, it's a website about providing services and support for caregiving. On the very, very, very bottom left corner, you will see a little clickable tab thing, and it says tips on romance scams. And if you click that, it will take you to another page where it tells you where to click to download all the things we're talking about today. The types of scams, what red flags to look out for. If you do want to proceed on a dating app, what kind of strategy might help to keep you safe. And if you find yourself communicating with a scammer, who to contact.
Yeah. I just got a text message from somebody, and I'm going to ask the question and then we're going to answer it. Dr. P. They call me Dr. P. Okay. Yes. Are you going to address the LGBTQ community? Yes, right now. Oh, okay. So here's what we're talking about. It's everybody.
Yes.
It's everybody. It doesn't matter if you're LGBTQ. It doesn't matter where you live, what your socioeconomic condition is, none of what age group you're in. It doesn't matter. And we don't have enough data. I will answer this question. Who is this? Jody. I will tell you this. Those of us that are really serious about this, we tried to reach out to the advocate to try to do an article on this. But Trish Laub is saying this is alive and well, and it hits every group, right, Trish?
Every group. And, it's not even quote unquote, romance scams is the big thing, but some of these websites, like I think it's Bumble has Bumble BFF. It can be friendships.
Yeah.
It's people you don't know. Yeah.
Because let's talk about loneliness.
Every demographic, nobody is exempt.
Yeah. Loneliness, it doesn't have any exemptions. It really doesn't. What you were sharing something during the break. Let's talk about loneliness right here. What did you find about loneliness? Because it's gotten so deeply ingrained in our population. It is seriously a problem.
This information is so important that I actually recommend getting the book. I believe it was President Obama's former Surgeon General Vivek Murthy who went out across the country, and he was trying to he wanted to speak to people about the opioid crisis. And he found that one of the most major public health threats in our country is loneliness. Every single person he talked to, whether they were married, whether they were in a family, whether they had kids, everybody experienced it. And it has such a strong association, loneliness does, to risk of heart disease, dementia, depression, anxiety. It affects your sleep, which affects obesity. And in the end, he said that the mortality impact of loneliness is similar to the mortality impact of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Yeah. But the thing that I really found interesting is that he talks about the difference between isolation and loneliness. And he said that loneliness is not just about isolation. Loneliness is subjective. It's how we feel about the quality of our connections. So it can be friendships or romantic ones. It's the gap between the social connections that we feel we need and the ones that we have. Yeah. That's what makes us vulnerable. And as humans, we are biologically primed not only to feel better, but to feel normal when we're together. Yeah. So that book really, I read it after the fact, and it really provided a lot of perspective for me. And what is it that makes us so vulnerable? And vulnerable is not a bad thing. It's what makes us human. But we also have to protect ourselves.
But boy, you nailed it. Underneath the underpinnings, you see, it's very easy to just say no. But when you, and that was tongue in cheek, it's not easy. Because underneath that, there is a scale of layers of things that you're trying to fulfill. And when you think about the effects of opioids, I'm not surprised I'm not surprised that came out. Because when you see what is the hole I'm trying to fill, what do these opioids have me feel? Yes. And so my gosh, there's an entire series on television called Euphoria. And so, but we're willing to do anything to fill that gap.
I should also interject in that book that he wrote. I don't know the exact name. It's Loneliness. It's Vivek Murthy. But he talks about 3 layers, or I pictured them as circles of connection we need to feel normal and healthy. And that was really, really helpful to me to read that. And loneliness is a health crisis.
Let's talk about, when we're talking about the different kind of scams, we talked about whether it's money, but we're talking about something specific here, romance scams. It's almost hard to say those 2 words, romance scams, right? It's kind of like, who would do that? But it is a thing. And we're talking about, there are types of these. Yes. What have you learned about this?
It's interesting. And I will say some sites like the FBI lists 5 things to look out for, the dating sites do. But when I really collectively looked at things, and more and more, I'm finding people I know will open up when I do. But, money's obvious. the person will say that they're in a different country and they're coming back to meet you, but oh my gosh, my granddaughter needs a surgery that, I can't afford to pay for. So I need money. I need help with that. Can you send me some money so I can come back and be with you? That's one kind. If anybody's familiar with the Tinder swindler, watch that documentary on Netflix. It's fascinating. One woman ended up with over $250,000 of her own personal debt by opening up credit cards and willingly making charges for them or taking out a line of credit. Gift cards. This one's a little harder for me to understand, but they will ask for, could you get me 100 gift cards because I can't take money from you. And when you get them, give me the numbers. And I assume they're reselling them. I don't really know how that works. Mm-hmm. Investments. This person will wait a while and then they'll tell you that, oh my gosh, I have information on this. Well, first of all, that's probably insider trading if it was true. But, I'd love to have you be a part of this. Sometimes when you invest in it, they'll give you a small return, just kind of like a little carrot, and ask you if you want to invest more and you're excited. And then you never see that money or that person hear from that money again. Yeah. Money transfers are really dangerous in the sense that they'll say, I have money in a bank in, the United States, and I need you to wire it for me because for wherever they are, they don't have the ability. The minute you have wired that money, you have transferred money, and it's usually dirty money. So you are laundering their money and you are committing wire fraud, and those are punishable to you. Yeah. Yeah. Cryptocurrency is kind of new on the horizons. They will tell you that, you hear cryptocurrency, you can make $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 a day. If you're hearing about it on the news, it's an anomaly. I happen to know quite a bit about cryptocurrency, and those are the exceptions to the rule. So they will say, oh, I already have an account set up. And an account, to get it set up, requires about 20 unique passwords that are used at the same time. It's a little laborious, so they offer to help you. The minute it's in their account, you can never access it again. Yeah. Then those are all financial. Then there's identity theft. Oh my gosh. They just want your personal and financial information so they can steal your identity. And then there's blackmail. And blackmail can be over personal information, passwords, or private photos. They will ask for photos that you probably shouldn't be sending. Yeah. And once they have them, they can blackmail you. So those are the major ones as far as I am aware.
Yeah, and there's a tricky one that's buried in all of those that I want to mention. And it's something that those of us in business run into. It is a tricky one. And I will say there are websites that you can go to. Reputation.com will, if you work with them, they run reports, they check your profile, they make sure you don't have any weirdness going on. Then there's another report, SOS. I believe that's it. I can't remember exactly. But the point that I'm trying to make, the calls that may get you are the ones where people call as if they are a good Samaritan. Yeah. And they show up and they say, hey, Pat, hey, Trish, I discovered that you have a ... from 10 years ago that's in the public domain. Mm-hmm. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, anybody that goes out of their way to do that, they want something for you. And you could figure out all of the other hiccups out there. What's on your credit reports, what's out there for your reputation, reputation.com. There are other places you can go if you're worried about how you show up in the digital world. Mm-hmm. When we come back, beware of somebody that says, I have important information for you, about you, that nobody else has. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back with Trish Laub. Hey, everybody, welcome back. Today's show, look, this is a hot topic. And I just want to be very clear with everybody about what we're talking about. When romance becomes a scam, my special guest, Trish Laub, we're going to get you a website. The reason we're talking about this is because you may be thinking COVID is over. No, this idea that massive amounts of people have entered the realm of loneliness. Loneliness is not a switch that you turn on and off. Just because people have come out of COVID-19, it doesn't mean that you or she or he or anyone that has suffered, right, through the eyes of loneliness is all of a sudden not lonely anymore. I just want to be very clear about that. It is not like your light switch on the wall. Trish, before we go, again, how do people get those downloads? What's the best website for them to go to?
It's Trish Laub, TRISHLAUB as in boy.com. And at the very, very bottom left-hand corner of any page on that website, there's something that says tips for romance scams. And if you click that, it'll take you to a page where you can click to download all of the topics, all the notes that we're talking about today in regard to catfishing and romance scams.
Awesome. Look, I want to just talk with you for a minute because I think we've touched upon the many, many, many reasons why you should be aware, right? How not to step in the pothole. And there are so many more we didn't. But there are signs. Let's talk about what you discovered as the signs. What have you found are in the top of the, there are many, we can only cover a few right today. Yeah. But what are the ones at the top of your list?
Typically, very often, if you're meeting them on an app, they want to move you off the app. Couple reasons: they feel more comfortable off the apps, but they will immediately delete their profile on the app because then if you report them, there's no trace of them. They will very often, even if they say they live in the United States, they travel long distance, jobs like construction or oil and gas. Two common claims of employment are they work on an oil rig or they're in the military. Sadly, they exploit that. You want to look for, is there a business website? Is there a social media presence? The more times you say no, the more flags are popping up. They immediately create false intimacy. So very often they will ask questions such as, so what do you like to do? Innocent question, right?
Yeah.
Women in particular are excited. We spew off everything we like to do. And they come back and say, wow, you stole the list of the things I like to do. Now they don't have to tell you anything. They're agreeing with you. They've created a common connection there. They will eventually, and this pattern is documented. There are scripts for this. They actually have scripts, and you can Google romance scam scripts and see some of them. They will cautiously declare love for you and say that they held back because they didn't want to scare you away. Many of them will say that they had a spouse that recently passed, that they've stayed off of social media, they just got on it, and you are the one. Then you get the love bomb. It can be poems, songs, words of affection, anything. I'm trying to think what else. They will also, this I find odd as an American. In each and every case, they would say, have you eaten today? What did you eat? Well, as an American, I don't care about what I ate. Yeah. But apparently, in some other cultures, they do.
They really do.
It always made me feel like, why do you care?
Yeah.
I didn't take it as caring. It struck me as odd. Another big one is there are some that are doing it in person, but if you're really off the apps, they will never meet you in person. Yeah. Within days, they will tell you they have to go to Europe to do work. You can ask them to video chat. That's a whole thing because they will steal the video of the person that they stole the pictures from, and they will make it blurry, and they will do a voiceover, and the sound and the voice, the sound and the mouth don't match, but they'll tell you it's just a bad connection.
Yeah.
So those I think are the big ones. And then the final one is the money ask.
And people that want money, they will go, you may be asking, who goes through those lengths of getting a dummy reel? I'll tell you what, people that are making a lot of money from this, you see, to them, it's just their toolkit. You know, it's a trade craft for them. It's the kind of thing they do where they're trying to, and they've done it successfully before. And so the world of technology allows them to edit. I mean, honestly, we're living in a world where you can edit videos in a nanosecond. I love what you said, because, here's the thing the light bulb that just went on for me. If you get anywhere from 2 or more excuses when you have an ask, I don't care what the ask is, but when the excuses start to pile up, that right there, that's got to be like red flag, red flag, red flag.
Right. And I'll even back it up a little bit further than that. When I went into this to find a male friend. I enjoy men's perspectives, and I had been somewhat recently divorced. I wasn't even looking to date somebody, but I automatically just my own values went in: no lies, no financial anything. Those were deal breakers for me. But I'll back it up even to your values and your boundaries, back to that thing I mentioned about sending photos, personal private photos. I think if you go into it, people say, well, why did you talk to this person? Because I don't want to walk through the world doubting everyone.
Exactly.
So the only thing I can do is protect myself. So I know my values. And if someone pushes those boundaries, my boundaries don't budge. They're never going to budge for anybody. I had the rule of no lies, and it took me a while to find the lie and go down the rabbit hole and see the whole picture. And also nothing even remotely related to the word financial. Those were my deal breakers. So I think, if people can go in and have those deal breakers in place, and then you see the red flags, one of those deal breakers is violated or a red flag, game is over.
Yeah. I love this.
They're not legit.
They're not legit. And I want to bring one up in particular that's in my wheelhouse. I was helping somebody with this. I don't know, it had to be a year ago or so. And it is so fascinating to explore the world. And let me just put it in a box called reverse psychology. Let me show you how it shows up on a scam. I've got to ask you a lot of questions because I just got burned. I just reached out about 6 months ago. I wasn't going to do this again because I just got burned, and took my this, and they found this out, and I shared this with them. And then now you've hit the empathy button. And now you've talked and addressed directly someone's greatest fears, but you think you're talking to an ally because, oh my gosh, it supposedly just happened to me. It didn't happen to them, right? I mean, do you know that one where they come up and they're just like, I'm really afraid to talk to you because I was in a romance scam and I don't know, I'm afraid to get engaged. And then you are like, but I'm about as safe as you get. Well, I'm not sure you are. Well, how could I show you? You see how that works?
Oh,
absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, this is all about, scammers are incredibly skilled at capitalizing on your vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to something else you said.
Yeah.
This is an image that really helps me. I now believe there were 3 that I spoke with, but the one that was very skilled probably was sitting at home or in an internet cafe, maybe 40 screens, maybe one big screen. Yeah. He was probably working 40, 50 women at the same time. So you do the math. Okay, I was a lost investment. You got nothing from me. But, like you say, you do the math. This is fishing. Throw the net. They see what they can bring in. I have an acquaintance who willfully handed over $9,000 in cash so that he could purchase cryptocurrency for her. $9,000 for a month investment's not bad. And if it's not just one prey that he gets that from, he's making a decent income.
Yeah.
So
I'm so glad you brought that up.
It helps me to the visual. He used to send me a song every morning at some point. We had a lot of fun doing that.
Thank you.
I am pretty sure that he has a list up there for each woman. And on day 3, she gets this song. We are not special.
We're not special. And by the way, if you're even out there in social media, they've already figured out what you like and don't like. I mean, anybody that's even looked or listened to any of the shows or have heard Benny, myself, or Jacob chat about, last week I talked about Sinead O'Connor's a fabulous documentary on how misunderstood she was, and talked about the fact that that is on my top of all favorite songs, although I'm a little bit annoyed at the Prince Foundation. So in one show, look what I've revealed, right? About Nothing Compares to You. But I know I'm out in the world. I know I have to take extra precaution. But the average person does not. And when you're lonely, lonely will trump every amount of precaution you may have in your body.
Well, and put loneliness with false intimacy.
I think that was my last relationship.
I'm not going to comment on mine. My relationship.
We should do a whole show on false intimacy. That is, we should get you, Elizabeth Cunningham, and a couple of other people to do that show.
Well, and it's interesting because most people think intimacy is sex. I think intimacy is trust and honesty.
Oh, intimacy is not always sex.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and this is what is at the heart of romance scams. Okay, let's go down this rabbit hole. I'm gonna skip the break because this is a good one. This is good.
Okay.
See, we in the world, and I have two friends that Dr. Kelly Neff wrote a fabulous book. He's a great sex psychologist. And we've had many, many conversations. So here's what I want to say. If you are spending hours on a phone call or on a whatever kind of call, whatever, chatting, it doesn't matter. But you are spending hours, you are emotionally and intimately hooking in, right?
You are plugged in.
I'm telling you, you're plugged in. And by the way, this is not this show, but I'm going to say it. If your partner is spending hours talking to a friend and not to you, you need to put a flag up. But you see, this is the part that we're not talking about. That is intimate. It doesn't have to be sexual conversations, Trish, right?
Now it's about trust.
Yeah.
And they are just so far, I can't even express how masterful they are at what they do.
They're experts.
They are
the good ones
experts.
Are experts.
I mean, the one that I spoke with in particular was highly educated. I have a decent command of the language, and I was looking up words. And I could take the conversation in any direction. And man, he could go right there with me. Any topic I picked.
Yeah.
Very, very highly skilled.
Oh, I got a question just came in. Somehow my cell phone got interacted with our live call-in number, and we haven't been able to, and I'm not willing to get rid of my cell phone. This is another question. Hey, Dr. Pat. Sorry, it's abbreviated. Give me a second. Hey, Dr. Pat. Are these people sociopaths? No, they don't have to be. These are business transactions for a lot of people. You know, by the definition of sociopath, okay, I'm going to walk on thin ice right here. You know, when we think of sociopaths, we think of Jeffrey Dahmer, narcissistic personality disorder. But a lot of this is like a business for them.
Yes, it's
this
business
is not
transactions.
Always, I'm a sociopath and you make me feel good. It's like, I need to get some kind of transaction going here.
Somebody actually in reading on this, it came up that in some cases, some of the scammers are from countries where maybe they make $100 a month.
Maybe.
One score, they can make $9,000. And what that can do for their entire extended family in the country that they live in is mind-boggling. Yeah, and it's not just individuals. There are entire teams out there that have quotas.
Yeah. So
no, I don't think that they're sociopaths at all. I think that they are business people.
Yeah.
You
know, it's so funny you mentioned that. I have an acquaintance, not even a friend. I had an acquaintance that was talking to me about this about a year ago, because this was an issue about a year ago for a friend of mine. It was so sad, like you were sharing. It was a very sad story. And I'll tell you, I've never felt more helpless in my life.
Yes.
Because I didn't even understand. And I reached out to a friend of mine that's, let me just call it an acquaintance that's part of a government agency. And I said to her, okay, you can't share secrets, but is this a thing? And what she said to me was, well, what if there was a whole telemarketing company that changed the entire direction of their business? What if there are rooms of like 50 people on phones with internet? What, and she didn't have to say anymore. And I was like, for real, Trish?
Actually, and I won't give out the website, but there are websites that you can go on where people have hacked those exact centers, and you can hear what they're saying about their prey. Oh my God. And they're just laughing and having a great
laughing.
time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thing number two, if you hear, no, this is probably thing number 20, Trish, right? If you hear voices in the background, no, that's not a cafe. If you, it's like when I call about like my computer, or I call about my credit report, and I'm like, okay, seriously, how many of you are in the room? That is an open landscape deal.
That's a call center.
It's a call center.
It is. I mean, and you can see videos of these people having the conversations that people tell you that they have. And, they're laughing. They're getting this, in many cases, these people's last dollars. And they're opening up credit to help them. And, they think it's funny. And they're destroying lives in some cases.
Okay, next question. Dr. Pat, Trish and Trish. Somebody knows that's my nickname too. But what about the United States? Okay, so let's just be very clear. We're not just talking about foreign countries here. We're talking United States of America as well. People in America.
The statistics we gave at the beginning, the $1 billion industry is the United States alone.
Thank you.
And I have gotten calls recently from a male acquaintance of mine asking me if I would speak with two of his female friends. And they are, one is been in this for 4 years.
What?
And has given unimaginable amounts of resources to the person. And the person has come and lived in their home for months. So in the United States, yes. And live, yes. The acquaintance I have that gave the cryptocurrency had dated the person in person for 4 months in the United States.
It's a well-oiled machine.
It is frightening. And I understand why the government and law enforcement, by and large, don't respond, because the scammers haven't committed a crime.
That's what I wanted to say. I want to get way back to this again. I want to come full circle to what we said. One, I have a friend that lied about her age on one of the dating sites. Not a crime.
No.
There are people that put up pictures that are not of them. Not a crime. As a matter of fact, there's a really good episode that I use as a training episode for people in this arena. I work with women that have been abused. And there's there's an episode of Law and Order SVU that there's one episode, I can't remember the name, but it is all about this. And in the end, even though the guy, not only did he false name, false this, false that, but approached a woman and they had sex together, there was no crime against it. And so this is really the hardship of the hardship, to feel like I'm not just, I'm hopeless now, right? Is that why you're doing this? This is a passion for you now. So this is not just a show. This is you trying to help others.
It infuriates me. And yes, about 50% I didn't know that were men that were scammed, but it infuriates me to think that any woman is prey. Absolutely infuriates me. And the only thing I can do is try to get the information out there and help them.
Yeah.
And I'm one of them. I had the rule, no financial ask or anything. And that's when I shut it down and had to learn, what do you do when you realize you're in a scam? And how do you handle that?
There's a message here too. I want to give this message. I don't know actually how you do this, but hopefully somewhere along the way, you'll create some kind of nonprofit where you can organize something to help people in this scenario. Because I have to tell you, there is such a lack of information that people and I don't even want to say assisted living, because that's not even it anymore, but anybody that's in an assisted type of situation, whether your home is too much for you. I have a couple of friends that they're like just turned 50. They're like, I don't want to care for anything. There's no protection in these places where there's nobody on staff that really can talk to their people that are in there to say, please don't engage in this call.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I don't know where I'll go with this, but I take any opportunity I can to talk about it. I would love to be a fake profile to flush them out, but
honestly, that, and get yourself a bunch of bodyguards. Because one of the things that we want to say for everybody here, you're hearing us talk about it because both of us have had experiences, although not the same. And there are things we've learned. But for you all, don't go down the path of thinking you can outsmart someone.
No,
you cannot.
Can I talk about that for a second?
Please do. We've got a few minutes left.
As soon as you find the red flag, and you kind of hit on another red flag.
Yeah.
Lots of times they promote isolating you from your friends. If you are doing this and you're not talking to your best friends about this, there's a red flag. There's a problem. But the minute one of your values, your boundaries, you find the lie, or there's an ask for something. Remember, you wouldn't meet some same friend and in 2 weeks be giving them $10,000. I don't think you would. So the minute that's broken, what do? If you shared financial information or passwords, contact the credit bureaus. In that little download I have, it tells you how to do that. Change any and all contact your financial institutions, change your account numbers, passwords, protect yourself. If you can do that before the scammer knows that you've ghosted them, do as quickly as you can, so they have no time to use the information they had. But block that phone number, and I cannot express that strongly enough. Dr. Pat and I have some skills that allow us to go down some rabbit holes safely to get more information, but do not do that. In doing that, I learned that one of mine continued to pursue me for 3 weeks, gaslit me. He upped his skill set. He said things, he knew exactly what to say to me that were my hot buttons. And I did not respond, but don't take that chance. Yeah. Contact the app or the platform wherever you met them. Contact ic3.gov and file a report. Contact the Federal Trade Commission if there was money involved. If you feel threatened, contact your law enforcement. It's serious. It's really serious.
Yeah.
And the minute you start thinking, you doubt yourself, picture that room with him there with that screen with 50 women he's saying the same stuff to every day. But absolutely don't do what Dr. Pat and I have done.
No, and for those of you, the men out there, let me be very clear. This is an area that you all do not want to talk about. You don't want to admit. And, this show is equally for you because we know the impact. We know how many men are taking down this pathway. There's so many docuseries out there about it. And yet at the same time, I know we're all just looking for love, but let's look in the right places. Trish, thank you for today. Again, give out your website and what's your personal message? What do you want to leave us with today?
Walk through life with an open heart, but trust is earned. It's a hard lesson for me to learn in my lifetime. I don't want to be that skeptic, but we have to be smart. And especially as women, we do. Just, guard that heart because it's the best thing you've got.
Thank you for today. Again, give out your website, please.
TrishLaub.com. Bottom left-hand corner, you can download a PDF that has all of what we've talked about, plus more red flags to look for, plus a strategy to use if you're going to step into that arena.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you so much. And I'm sure we'll be talking about this again. This really gets ramped up for all of you out there around the holidays. Just saying, it really gets ramped up, pulling on the heartstrings, all of the above. Thank you, Trish. Thank you, Benny. Thank you, Jacob. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back.